In this moment, what is the Curtis Mayfield song that you love the most?
The Curtis Mayfield song that I love the most, that's really hard. Move On Up. Yeah. The horn parts. It's iconic. And it's optimistic. And that song, I walk around and I hear it all the time.
So I wanted to start with the kind of argument behind the film, which is that Curtis Mayfield doesn't get the credit that he deserves. First of all, I wanted to ask you why you think it is that he doesn't get the credit that he deserves.
I don't know if the argument is that Curtis doesn't get the credit that he deserves fully. I think that it's just not talked about as much, and he's not always given the credit when named. Like, he's not named amongst like Marvin and Stevie and Sly. He's not the first name that you think of, hence the nickname Gentle Genius. I think that the purpose of the film is not just to say like, oh, no one gives him his credit. It's to show how much his presence is actually felt and how influential he is. And just because he's not talked about doesn't mean that he actually isn't, influential. So I think that's kind of the why there. But when I mentioned Curtis in my Oscar speech in 2021, all the headlines the next day, brought up that I brought up Sly and some other artists, but they missed Curtis's name when they talked about who I mentioned in my speech. So the point of the doc is to show you that, visibility, it doesn't always equate to success, and that his presence is felt more than it's maybe seen.
How would you, for a layperson, sort of summarize what you think his greatest influence is?
Curtis Mayfield's influence was, it's too grand to sum up, but his influence was really being a socially conscious musician, someone who spoke of the truth. I think he's one of the greatest storytellers because of the different stories that he would tell, and how much he spoke joy into the Black experience and to, all people, the optimism that he had.
Since you brought up sort of his role as a storyteller, I was really fascinated by the way that he engaged with politics and combined that with formal experimentation and sort of moving beyond the commercial. Is there anyone working today who you would say is like analogous to that in sort of what they're doing with their music and fusing stylistic experimentation and sort of political evolution?
It's very hard to say because we're talking about two different time periods, and different things that were happening at that time. And also what he was doing at that time in the early 60s and 70s. And he talks about it in the doc where there's things that he couldn't even say, that they wouldn't have played on the radio. And I think now we have a lot more platforms and a lot more people who kind of speak out against, social injustice or just speak to real human experience on all levels, whether it's controversial or not. But I don't know. I don't know who's really touched on politics in music. There's tons of artists who do it. I think there are more artists who speak out against things than they sing about them.
That's actually a great segue into the next question, which was kind of your own feelings about how an artist should engage in these issues. Do you think of using your platform to speak? Do you want to weave it into your music? Do you want to keep it separate? Like, what's your own philosophy around it as an artist and a person?
My philosophy is really that the only responsibility that we have as artists is to talk about the truth and to talk about the things that we feel. And if you feel a certain way about something and, you feel the need to express it and to be used in that way, then let it be organic, and authentic. When it's forced, people can feel it. Like, I don't think a lot of artists make music for other people. They make music for themselves, and as a result, you hope you touch people, you hope that it connects, but to me it's quite selfish. It's like a diary or something, so I don't think I would put that responsibility on other artists to speak on politics or social issues unless they feel directly impacted or directly inclined, to talk about them.
So to switch gears, this is your feature directorial debut. You have your movie camera with you. Why did it make sense for this project to be the one where you step behind the camera in the way that you do?
Man, I was so honored to get the call, because it wasn't even me that, decided I'm going to direct this documentary. I have to give the credit to my producer, Peter Afterman, who saw how much I loved Curtis Mayfield and said, well, would you tell the story? And a few conversations later, I've just been so blown away by, I don't know, the process, and humbled and just super grateful. I think it's really special, if I may say, coming from an artist perspective, to really dive into who he was and to his brain, to his process, as opposed to kind of being just a fact person, or getting sound bites from people, to actually sit down and pull these vulnerabilities out of other artists who loved him so much, I think is so special. So I hope people feel that, our connection to it. I think you feel his impact way more through us, as opposed to us telling you Curtis is the greatest of all time. It's more than that. And talking to all the different artists, I didn't expect them to dig as deep as they did. So for Mary J. Blige to talk about her family dynamic and how Curtis's music relates to that, and how much that hit home for her to the point of almost being in tears, I could have never planned for that to help tell the story of who Curtis was as a person and the people that he represented. It was all about these artists helping form the story and digging a little bit deeper than just, again, people just telling you how great he is, but showing you why he's great.